In today's video, it's not looking good for Zoran Mamdani, ladies and gentlemen. First, you had the NYPD calling Mamdani out over his handling of the Islamic extremists. And now New York City's budget expectations are being called into question as the city's credit outlook has been given a negative update due to larger multi-year shortfalls than previously expected. Basically, the projections are showing that they're going to run out of other people's money sooner than they thought. And on top of all of that, there's now a push for a $30 minimum wage in New York as the governor admits businesses are fleeing for red states. And so we're going to break it all down. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know to stay locked in with future videos. Subscribe and make sure you turn on notification bells. That way YouTube never forgets to let you know when I drop. Let's get right into it.
Five's Morgan Mackay here now with what we learned today. Morgan.
Hey, Steve and Natasha. So City Comptroller Mark Levine painting a grim picture of the city's economic future, reporting that the city lost 38,000 private sector jobs over the last year. Today, the City Council kicked off their first budget hearing, and already there are mixed numbers. Levine testifying today that the city's budget gap will now likely be $7.3 billion over 2 years, almost $2 billion more than what the mayor's office has been projecting.
How is it that OMB got such a high revenue estimate? They did that by assuming that the bull market that fueled the financial industry in 2024 and 2025 continues in 2026, in what OMB refers to as another, quote, exceptional year. In that scenario, in their scenario, the securities industry would add 8,200 jobs over the next 2 years, triple what my office projects.
Now, Levine also criticized the mayor's office for proposing to draw down the city's reserves to help fill the budget gap. The proposal to drain the reserves and the projected budget gaps has now also forced Moody's ratings to change the city's bond outlook from stable to negative for the first time since COVID.
And so this comes from the Comptroller after being updated about Moody's decision to revise New York City's outlook to negative. And the Comptroller's job is to ensure that funds are being used properly. And so he says, Moody's decision to revise New York City's outlook to negative is a sobering wake-up call about the fiscal challenges ahead of us. It is the first negative outlook the city has received since the COVID crisis. The fact that this is happening at a time of relative health in our local economy is all the more remarkable. The underlying challenge is clear. New York City is currently spending more than it brings in. The fact that the preliminary budget achieves balance only by drawing down reserves underscores the need for a more sustainable fiscal plan. And so basically, he's warning Mamdani. The city's bringing in a lot of revenue, but the way that we go about spending it is not sustainable in the long run. But let's continue.
Levine says he is strongly against the mayor's proposal to raise property taxes, pointing to how it will make the city's fiscal future even more uncertain. But he does think the state should give the city more money each year by changing the local aid formula. When asked about the proposal to raise taxes on millionaires and corporations, Levine kept the door open but was cautious.
Everything has to be on the table, but I also want to be cautious because we're relying on the financial sector to continue to show strength in order to meet our revenues. And if we undermine that, we could be in a deeper hole. So I want to be very careful that we don't do anything in our tax policy that would slow down this key sector that we need to pay for important programs for New Yorkers.
And so what's happening is New York City is getting their warning right now. That's what's going down. This is the calm before the storm, where you're seeing the credit rating outlook has been turned negative. Now, you could either choose to take that for what it's worth and pay attention and make some adjustments or not. You have the Comptroller warning that the path they're going down is not sustainable for the long term. Now, you could either take what he's saying and say we need to maybe readjust and think about things differently or not. But the problem is their policies. When your policies are rooted in the idea that the government can solve all your problems, that's an issue in itself. And it becomes very difficult to walk that back, right? Especially after you already made all those big promises as far as how Government was going to come in and make everything better. So now let's get into this next clip of New York's governor, Kathy Hochul, admitting that businesses are leaving New York City in favor of more favorable tax climates, such as Florida and Texas, red states. Take a listen.
I know New Yorkers are exasperated. They feel that everything's stacked against them. They're not getting ahead. Their rents are too damn high. Their child care costs are high. Their utility bills, and thank you to Washington, we're going to have higher prices at the pump. We already do. Everything just seems so hard for people. So I understand that frustration. You should join me in the North Country yesterday in Ogdensburg and Watertown, and people are so upset about the tariffs, raising the cost of everything. So there is this anxiety, which is real, and we're continuing to address the affordability crisis, which I believe should be the #1 priority of this legislative session. What can we do to take off some of that pain that New Yorkers are feeling that I hear about literally every day? What I want to make sure we are smart about is having a system in place where it's not just taxing for the sake of taxing, and being conscious of the facts that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. Right? Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, Wall Street businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this. But we can fund what we want to fund with what we already are taking in.
It's not about being nice. You think companies care about how nice the governor is? It's about the policies. Are those policies going to be more favorable towards them doing business? Are those policies going to be more favorable towards business growth, which is going to lead towards more job opportunity in that area for the people, which is going to lead to more revenue in that city, in that state? And so has nothing to do with whether she's a nice lady or they like her as a person. It has to do with the financial incentive and whether it's going to be better for their business bottom line. But now let's go to Mamdani pushing for a $30 minimum wage across New York City and the ripple effects that can end up having. Check it out.
So here we go again, Mayor Mamdani moving closer to making his progressive dream a reality. His campaign promise to make New York City home to the nation's highest minimum wage is now headed to City Council for approval. If passed, minimum wage would nearly double in the Big Apple by 2030, jumping from $17 an hour today to $30 an hour. Mom and pop shops say that with already sky-high rent and rising costs, this pay hike could be the final straw and force them to cut jobs. Larry Kudlow, explain why minimum wage does, or I'm assuming in your opinion, does not work.
I think he should have gone right to 50.
What a cheapskate.
You know what I mean? I mean, why stop at 30?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it.
I mean,
Why not?
That's what I would have done. But I mean, look, these guys are working off margins that are very small, urban stores. I mean, except for some of the fancy European stores. But your basic mom and pop store doesn't have much of a profit margin. So you're going to have to pay labor. It's hard to they're not going to have the productivity gains to keep unit labor costs down and justify it. I mean, you should let the market should set the wage price. The market should set the clearing price of whatever goods or services you're buying. It's just crazy stuff. It's socialist stuff, but,
But what fascinates me, Brian, is that the messaging works. People hear higher wage and they think, yes, power to the people, but they don't understand the ripple effects. That then, if McDonald's has to pay $30 an hour instead of 17, the price of my hamburger also doubles because they can't afford labor costs unless they raise income.
Let's be honest. If you're bagging groceries at a local corner store or you're a cashier, that's not worth $30 an hour. Let's just be honest here. You can make your money, listen, but it's not worth saying that should be the minimum wage and that's where the bar needs to start. No, not at all. And if you do that, what does that do to the jobs that are in other industries that are more specialized, that require more specific understanding, more knowledge, more capabilities, that aren't so entry level? Now they're going to demand more money also. And so all you're doing is driving up the cost of everything, including prices. And so it's just going to be an awful disaster all the way around. And you're going to have one or two things: businesses that are going to choose to leave in favor of more favorable states with better policies, better tax incentives for a business, or then they're going to go towards automation, more AI. Instead of having 5 people to do different tasks, they'll have one person with AI operating, making sure the tasks get done. That's the reality, whether you want to accept it or not. But let's continue.
And then I get paid $30 an hour, but then the price of the burger that I want to buy has also doubled. But that messaging doesn't sound as good, and so people don't understand that.
I feel like this appeals to the NYU student who's taken like 2 quasi-Marxist economics classes,
Right.
and they think this works, but they haven't tested it in the real world, so they're all in on Zoran. But, we talk about, okay, what is this going to do? And we have the AI conversation. Will AI kill jobs or create jobs? And I think it's going to create jobs overall. But the area where I do think it will team up with policy and kill jobs is this. Yes, there are moms and pops that may not be able to employ AI, but then you've got that whole layer of retail where it's actually like national or multinational retail, and they have operations here. And they see this, and they've got 10 companies with an AI solution breathing down their neck saying, if you don't want to pay $30 an hour, I've got a way for you to do inventory and stocking and tracking and customer service, and you don't need any people. And AI is going to get a toehold, and I don't blame AI for doing this, but that their salespeople are calling these companies right now and saying, we can help you avoid the cost of this. And those companies are going to say 100%. Yes. And Zoran's going to blame AI, and he's going to want to regulate AI. And the problem isn't AI, it's you.
That's what we're in for.
Well, can I just raise one point? There's something missing from this. The concept of profits, okay, which is alien to socialists. But if you're profitable, let's say your average labor cost is $10, and you might be profitable. All right, you might go to 15, you might go to 20, but at some point you hit the break-even point, okay? The marginal cost exceeds the marginal revenue, so you have to fire them.
Right.
All right. Without profits, you have to lay off workers.
Or close your doors, right? I mean,
or just go out of business altogether. Yeah. I don't think that Mamdani or his socialist pals, it's not
Definitely
a lexicon.
care about that.
Right. They don't even think
profit is evil to them. It's evidence of evil, actually.
But if you don't make money, you can't stay in business.
You were talking about what will be the reality check that will stop it. It's going to be businesses closing down. We were talking during the break about how wonderful eating is in New York City, and not only at people's houses, but at these wonderful restaurants. They have, to be specific, I looked it up, they have a profit margin of 2 to 6%.
Yes.
Most restaurants, 2 to 6%. And they want to double the labor costs. Labor is about 30 to 40% of the cost of having a restaurant. So they want to double. This would just put about half of the restaurants in New York out of business. Flat.
Listen, all they have to do is look at California. When they decided to raise their minimum wage from $16 to $20, look what it did. Jobs were lost, businesses shut down. For the places that decided that they would not shut down, they scaled back, they raised their prices. And that was just going from $16 to $20 an hour. You're talking about going from $17 to $30 an hour, which is almost doubling the minimum wage and squeezing the pockets of business owners even tighter. I don't see how that can possibly end well for business owners in New York City and New York City as a whole. This is what New York asked for when they voted for Mamdani. And so we're going to see how it ends up playing out. Those are my thoughts in the update. Now let me hear from you. As always, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know you enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel to stay locked in with future videos. And as always, until next time.